Good afternoon, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's training. My name's Aaron Barger, and I will be your facilitator today. I am the account trainer with Nevada Medicaid Gainwell Technologies, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Nevada Medicaid application, which is going to go live for Medicaid recipients on January 7th. This application is designed to allow Medicaid recipients to get access to their health information, their membership cards, and a variety of other details. So we're going to take a look at some of those tools that they're going to have in their pockets today. So just a few of the things that we're going to try to cover today. We're going to take a look at the application and try to develop an understanding of what it is and what it can do for members. We're going to talk about how to create an account, log into the app, how to review Medicaid benefits, access resources, review messages that will be sent out to members, and search for providers. We're going to talk about how they can locate and share their Medicaid ID card with their Medicaid provider. We're going to talk about how they can access and search for health information, change their settings, and a variety of other things. As we begin this, I just want to remind everyone that this is being recorded so that we can access this information later if need be. And so I do please ask that you keep your microphones on mute and hold your questions till the end, because at the end we will be opening the floor for a Q&A, as we do have a few experts in the room who will be able to answer any of your questions as they might come through. So the Nevada Medicaid application is going to be going live on January 7th, as I said, and it is going to be accessible by members in their app store. This is just an example of what it might look like for members in the Google Play Store. This will vary a little bit if you have Apple or something of that nature, but this is just an idea of how the app will appear, and here's the icon that it's going to show and kind of how it'll display on their app store. So with that being said, I'm going to just kind of jump into the application here. And so when the users first log in, they're going to see something that looks like this. Now, of course, just note that this is a web portal version of the application. So there will be a few differences that they'll note. Functionally, this is all the same. You're just going to see maybe things in the shape of your device, as well as instead of using a mouse, you're going to have elements that are functional with, tapping with your finger. So when they log into the app when they first open the app, they're going to see a login page that looks kind of like this. Up in the top right corner, they can change the language. In the bottom left corner down here, they'll see that they can click to register, or they can do a forgot password. If they're opening the app for the first time, they are going to have to register with it. So by selecting that registration, it's going to ask them for some of their basic information. They will have to already be registered with Nevada Medicaid as recipients, because they will have to enter their name, date of birth, and member ID. And this is going to search for their information as it's currently registered. Patients that are under 18 will not currently be able to register with this application, but anyone over 18 will be able to make use of it. If they do have any questions, in the bottom right corner, they can actually click this FAQ link. So it'll actually take them out to the FAQ that's been set up for them. So it does use Microsoft Sway here, and it provides a variety of information for the user to access. They can kind of scroll through. And so it's functional, and it provides details on frequently asked questions. You can see them posted here in question format, and then they get a little header kind of explaining what those questions are related to. Down here in the bottom right, they can click this, and that'll open it up and kind of give them a little view of what kind of questions they can access and what some of the topics are. So if they do have any questions ahead of time, without having to pick up the phone and call, they might actually be able to find a lot of the information that they're looking for right here in this tool. So by returning to the application, I'm going to go ahead and go back here to take a look at our opening page. And so our landing page here does allow them to enter their username or password. If they do forget their password, they can use that forgotten password link. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and plug in some of the information that I have. So I do have a user that we're going to start with today. I'm going to go ahead and plug this in. Enter the username there. And my top secret password I'm going to enter in here as well. So please cover your eyes and don't look at my password there. and I'm going to click the login button. They can actually use the visual tool if they want to see and make sure they've entered their password right, and they can click the remember me, which will auto-populate their username later if they do log into the app at a later time. Once they click the login button, it's going to load and take them to a two-step verification page. And this right now is going to allow them to send a verification code to their email. And this is going to do this every time. And so this is going to be whatever email they entered when they signed up with the app. And they're going to click that send code button there. And it is going to send a verification email to their email address. So I'm going to have to wait just a second here for that email to show up in my email. And then I will bring up an example here for you. So this is kind of what the email is going to look like. It's going to say dear user, or in this case, I'm user, and it's going to give them that verification code. So it does tell them that it is going to expire in 10 minutes. So they do have to get that verification code entered in there. So they're not going to be able to copy and paste that. So they're going to have to make sure that they can come in here and quickly enter that code. Not too quickly. They do have 10 minutes to work with, so it's not too short of a time. But once they get that code entered, they can click verify. If for some reason they couldn't get that code in on time, or the time, if the timeline lapsed or something of that nature, they can click that resend code button that will allow them to resend the code. As of right now, the code only goes to email address. It does not go to a text. It can't be sent by text or phone call or anything of that nature, no. So then they can click the verify button. And so that's going to verify that code that they sent, and it is going to take them to the Nevada Medicaid landing page where they can see a variety of tiles that populate right here. So we'll actually go through each one of these tiles. And so these allow them to do a variety of different things, from checking their benefits to see what benefits they currently have under Nevada Medicaid, all the way down to looking up claims information and any of their providers that provide currently for Nevada Medicaid. They can look up providers and call them by phone and that sort of thing. They can also see resources, check their message, and review their digital card from here. If they come up to the top left corner, they'll see these three lines that appear, and they can select that and brings them a little fly out and says hi to them. And then it shows some of those same tools here. So you can see those same tools that appear in the tiles in the center there. There are a couple of additional things that they can do from this flyout, like they can change their language by clicking this language, and they can change it to Spanish if they like. And it will change all of the information to Spanish so that you can see how that displays there. For the purpose of this training, I'm going to stick with English. So we'll go back and select English again and click confirm, and it returns everything to English. So I'm going to scroll on down here now to the profile setting, so you can see that there. We're going to click that profile setting. So this actually allows the user to change their two-step verification email if maybe they had an email update or something of that nature. And then they also have an additional place where they can access that language tool as well to change the settings on that. So we'll go first to head back over here and see, so we can see the text kind of display. I'll click that again, and we'll kind of go step by step through some of these. I'll show you the benefits, the digital card resources, and then for the My Health section, we'll actually take a look at another user. I'll log out of this user and log into another user so you can see some additional details. So I'm going to start by clicking My Benefits here. And this will allow us to see the recipient's benefits, or in this case, this would be our benefits. We would be logging into our application. So we can see our name that shows here and our Medicaid ID that displays there. Down here, it does show the Nevada Medicaid that this recipient does have Nevada Medicaid, shows the status is active, and it gives us the start and the end date, in this case displaying that apocalypse end date there with that 22/99 end date. Any other additional details will display in these fields as well. They have managed care or something like that. They can come over here. I'm going to fly this out just so you can see the text again. They can click their digital card, and this will take them to their digital recipient card, allowing them to review all of the information that might display as if it were a paper card. It kind of has that same style, that same look, giving them the Nevada Medicaid and Nevada checkup title up there, showing the Nevada seal and showing their recipient number and name. And it gives them their date of birth and gender as well down here. If they scroll down, they can see the back side of the card. And so this actually provides a few numbers that you can see here that list in these places here, and that'll give them some quick places where they can make some phone calls if they have any questions about their services or the tools available to them. They can pick up the phone and call those numbers that display there. It does provide this code here that they can, if you're actually able to take a picture of that with your reader, you can select that and it'll actually copy some of the details off of this card, like the recipient number and the enrollee name and the date of birth, so that you can they could paste that somewhere if they needed to. Down here, they can click the print tool, and this will allow them to print using whatever their print settings are. So if they have print settings set up in their application, they can do that. So if they have certain tools to print to in their home or wherever they might be, and then they can also print that to PDF like that. This is a good tool for providers. We'll have this as well when card is shared with them. I'll show you that in just a moment. Down here in the bottom right corner, they can click this Share Card button. And this will give them the option to share the card with their provider. It begins by displaying the member's ID and gives them the option to generate a one-time password. So they can click that Generate One-Time Password button there. It provides them a single password and it gives them the expiration date. So when that password is going to expire, it's always going to be on the same day, and it gives them the time a few minutes later. So you do have a little bit of time to go ahead and enter that password. And they would go ahead and want to enter their provider's email in here. So I'm just going to enter my email for now so that we can look at an example of that. Once they get their provider's email entered, they can click to send that email. And then that's going to shoot an email over to the provider that you entered. So whatever email address you entered in there, it's going to shoot that email over to the provider. And then they will see an email populate like this one here. And it'll give them that one-time password. And they can click this link to launch the Nevada Medicaid app on their computer. So once they open that link, they'll get an option to enter that member ID. The patient will have to give them the member ID. So in this case, I'm just going to copy it over from here just to be speedy. And then the provider could enter that one-time password that they got in the email. In this case, I'm just going to grab it from here by copying that and pasting it here, and then clicking that login button. Once providers get those details entered accurately, they'll get to see a little image of the recipient's card, gives them their name and all of the same information that they might need on that card. From here, they'll have the option to select a print as well. So they can go ahead and print that patient's information for their records, save it to their files, whatever they might need to do as a provider to keep that information organized. Once they're finished with the card, they can click that link to close it. It does give them a little warning to let them know that they're not going to be able to generate that same card. So if they needed to save something or do anything, they will need to go ahead and take care of that, or they're going to have to generate the code again. So I've closed out of that and it just takes them back to that landing page. And then I'm going to go up to the login, close it out, and head back to the digital card here. I'm going to click this back button. So I'm back to the user's view, so back to the recipient's view. And now you can see the card that displays here. Heading back over to these three lines over here, I'm going to select this resources section. So the Nevada Medicaid app offers some quick links to resources for patients. So they can start by clicking this contacts and resources link here. And this will take them out to the DHCFP website where they can get some phone numbers and additional information on Nevada Medicaid specific to the Nevada Medicaid application. So they can call some of these phone numbers, or they can open any of these files that might listed here or links. So it provides them a little detail for any questions they might have regarding the app. Going back to the application, you can also see that they have access to the district office phone number and the Reno district office phone number for Las Vegas and Reno, excuse me. And if they were to click those in the application, it would allow them to quickly call that phone number. It won't work in this situation because I'm not in an app on a cellular device, but they could click those and quickly call the phone numbers and get the information that they need. And then down here, they have application to the MDP user guide and MDP fact that we looked at earlier. The user guide is similar in its design. If they click that, they'll actually be able to see the user guide for the application. They can scroll through and see step-by-step details on how to use the app. Again, they can look at all of the details by clicking that sway icon in the bottom so that they can go down and skip through, and then give you an example of how some of these do have screenshots that they can use to work through the application and see what they should be looking at as they go along. Down here, we're actually going to skip the My Health section for now, and we'll come back to it later. And I'm going to jump over to the My Provider section. And when users come in here and they go to My Providers, they can actually search for Nevada Medicaid providers. So from here, they'll be able to enter some information. So I'm going to grab some details to run a search on here just a second. They're going to want to enter that zip code. They can enter the distance in miles from their location. So I'll select 20 miles in this case. And then they're going to want to enter they're going to need to enter the type of provider that they are searching for. So they do have options to select all of these provider types, as you can see listed here. So for here, I'm going to select hospital inpatient just for this demonstration. And then they'll have to select the specialty of the provider as well. It does narrow it down by the applicable specialties. So in this case, I'm going to select hospital inpatient. And if they knew the name of the provider they were searching for, they could enter that here. In this case, we're just going to do a general search. So I'm going to click the Find button now with all of my details entered. It's going to run a quick search. And it's going to pull up all of the providers that meet the criteria that I've entered. So you can see all of the providers that are detailed, and they do show up in this list format. From my application, I could, when I find the provider that I'm looking for, I could click to open in Maps. So I could use whatever map application I have in my device to quickly get directions to that provider. So I can go and enter my setup to look for directions and get my device to take me there a little easier, whether I'm using Google Maps or Apple or whatever the case might be. I can also use this link here to quickly send a phone call to the provider from my device. And again, I can do that in each of these cases, but it also gives me the address listed here. I'm going to go back up to the top here, exit out of that, and head back to the My Providers page. And then from here, I'm going to go and check out my messages. So this is going to give patients access to any of the messages that are being sent out to them. From here, you'll see that they have their selected member name will show here, and it will show, right now it's showing a 0 because it's telling me that I've already read the messages that are available. But depending on however many messages that I have that I haven't read, it'll show a number there. So if I had one message that was unread, it would show a 1. If I had 5 messages that were unread, it would show a 5. In this case, I've read this message, but I can open it up anyway because it does stay here. It gives me a brief notice telling me what it is, and then it gives me a link here that I can click to open the PDF. So if patients are to click that PDF or select that PDF, as the case might be, it will open it in a PDF format for them, and they can read through the notice that they've received. And this gives them digital access to whatever messages are coming out to them. So returning to the app now. Going back down here, you can see related to the messages, there is an opt-in, opt-out section that displays down here. So if I do click that, it's going to give me the patient options to opt in or out of those digital communications. So if they want to opt out of the app, that'll allow them to resume paper communications and no longer receive new information on the app. So if they don't want to receive their notifications through the app and they just want to receive that in paper communication form, they can come here and quickly opt out of the app. If they decide they do want to receive paper communications and also receive information on the app, so they want to receive both, they can come in here and click the opt out of electronic communications. And so that will actually allow them to receive both and not just the opt out and not just the electronic ones. So returning back, that covers most of the tiles here. And so again, if they want to return to if I return to the home page, they can access most of those more common resources there. And I'm going to actually go ahead and log out of this patient so that I can take you over and show you the My Health section. So scrolling down here, the user can come down and log out of the application. And to look at the My Health section, I'm going to log in with another patient here who has has some different details that we can look at to give you a different view of it. So I'm going to enter this patient's details here and plug in my password. And then I'm going to select that login button. It is going to send me that verification code again, as we discussed. So I'm just going to shoot that over to my email and then grab it from there. Type that in there and click verify. And so now I'm returned to the app. And if I were to select up here, you can see that I am logged in as a different user. It's saying, hello, John. And then I want to now go to the My Health section to take a look at some of those health details that patients can review. So from here, patients have the ability to review as much as a 3-month range of data for their health. It automatically starts by selecting 1 month, so that'll look over the past month. They can select 3 months, so that it'll quickly allow them to review the last 3 months of data. Or they can set it up to review by date range. And so they would have to come down here and enter the date range they want to review by. And I'm going to go ahead and review all the way back in January here. Pardon the scrolling. And then I'm going to start with January 1st. Select OK, and it's going to populate in this field here. And then I can review a 3-month range. So I'm going to go back here to March and select March 1st as well. So they can scroll through that calendar like so. And then once they've entered their details, they can click that submit button. Once they've clicked submit, it is going to populate the data for the date range that they've selected. And they'll be able to see that it's showing the time frame that we entered. It's showing when we downloaded the information as today. And then if I scroll down, I can see the details that it will display. It's going to show claims, procedures, and prescriptions and providers seen. Currently, immunizations, lab results, and vital signs will not display because those don't currently show on Nevada Medicaid claims. Under the claims section, I'm going to select that. We can see the claims that have been submitted for this patient in the time frame they entered. So we can see all of the claims that show there for that display here and the dates and then also the status. So we can see the paid status on each of these. If they click to open the claim, it'll show a variety of details, everything from the claim number, when it was submitted over here. Down here, you can see the end date and the start date for the billable period. And this gives us the provider that billed the claim. And of course, the member, which would be us as we're logged into the app. Generally, it'll show a diagnosis code here. And we show that the paid status is here and the date that it was billed on. Down here, we'll see all of the totals that are related to the patient. So we can see the total billed amount at $659, the total allowed amount in this case shows $540, and how much was paid out. So in this case, $537.29. And then down here, it displays some service line details, giving some general information on what services were performed. So do note some information might be missing, might show a little oddly because we are still doing this in a test environment, but these are the general details that will display in the claim. Just to show you a different example, we'll look at the third one in the list as well, just to get a different visual, and some of the other details will display here. So for example, here's one that does show the diagnosis code, with the code and the description displaying, some different paid amounts and billed amounts, and then some additional service line details that the patient can select. So, and this is the case where multiple service line details display, and they can choose by selecting those drop downs to look at the information of them. So it does show them how much is billed in each case, and they can review that information. So that's kind of what a claim would look like for a patient. So I'm going to jump back over here. We can see procedure codes usually that will display for the patient. In this case, it's not showing them, but procedure codes would list here for the patient that have been submitted in that time frame. Down here, we would be able to see the prescriptions that were provided to the patient, so they can see any prescriptions, anything that they were prescribed to in that time frame. Gives them the day's worth of supply, the name of the drug, and the date that it was prescribed on. So they're able to keep track of their prescriptions that way. Under provider seen, they can see information on any of the providers that they've met with. So in that 3-month period, they've only seen one provider, gives them their specialty, and it provides the phone number as well so that they can quickly call that provider if they need to. Down here, there are 2 buttons for them to access. So if they don't want to kind of click through their claims like that, they can actually pull up a full summary of that claim. So this is going to pull up a summary of all of the claims in that period. So it's all that data for whatever period they searched for. And they can actually review it like this so that they can quickly scroll through the information. This also gives them the opportunity to print it. Now, keeping in mind, depending upon how many claims were submitted through that period may determine how much a patient actually wants to look at one time, because their print button is down here at the bottom of the page. So depending upon how much is populated here, it will determine how much scrolling they may have to do. So they could actually potentially do a whole lot of scrolling if they're not careful. So if you'll just shield your eyes, mind your eyes for a moment, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom to show you that they can look at all of those details. And then down here at the bottom, they can click the print button. And this will allow them to print the full details of those claims for their records from here. So just like with any other printing option, they can shoot that to a PDF or shoot it to a destination printer, depending upon their settings or what kind of printing setup they have. So returning now back to that health summary they have here, the other button they have that they can look at is that drug search button. So we know, for instance, that they were prescribed insulin at one point in time. They can use this drug search to look up some of those drugs that they might have provided to them. So if they were to enter insulin in there, they can do a general search. So this will actually pull up some of the types of drug names and drug lists. It's going to show them the common name of the drug, the actual name of the drug, and the tier. So if it were a generic drug, then it would show that. And if it were a preferred drug, like a name brand or something like that, it would show preferred. So you can see those things listed here. All of these currently are displaying are non-preferred generic. So they can scroll through and see all of the listed drugs that show here. So returning back to the home page, we'll kind of go back to the end. And as of right now, that concludes the general overview of the application. At this point, if you do have any questions, please feel free to stick around, and we'll have some folks on who will be able to try to address those for you. I am going to go ahead and stop the recording at this point in time and open the floor for questions if you have any.
Hello?